Good morning, everybody. Um, I am Dr. Sonali Pandit, and I'll be today. I'm an ENT surgeon, as Asavari just said, and today I'll be talking about protection of our ear, nose, and throat. What precaution should we be taking during this COVID-19 pandemic? So my talk, I will actually talk about, generally about COVID-19 and how it affects our ear, nose, and throat. Okay, so this is our fight with COVID-19. We wish we could have this kind of a magic glove with which we can knock down the virus, but it's not that simple. Why are we all worried about this virus? We've had so many viral infections in the past, like Ebola or SARS, even like influenza. All these things, all viruses are there since long period of time. We are dealing with them, but this one, everybody is scared. Whole world is now in lockdown almost because of this virus. So why is this virus so special? One thing is, this is a very new virus, though this is the family is well known, but this particular strain is a new strain. This virus is extremely infectious. So the problem with this, again, the virus, when you have infection, symptoms of infection, even 2 3 days prior to that, you are infectious to others unknowingly. So you probably are going to the office or to hospital, so like your workplace, and you absolutely don't know that you have been infected with the virus, and you are at that infectious phase, and you are infecting others unknowingly. So that is a worry. Asymptomatic carriers are there and they are spreading the virus. That's the main worry. And before, when your guard is down, if you're not wearing mask or if you're not washing your hands properly, you would be surprised how quickly or how easily you can catch the virus. This is a very very smart virus. It is capable of mutation. It can change itself. So now we have got many strains of this virus. That's why scientists are worried about even the efficacy of vaccine, and how we can sort of prevent one strain from the other, infection of from one strain to the other. So it is smart. It changes its genetic makeup. It changes its form, and some strains are really bad, really virulent. Some strains are mild. Till date, there is no effective medicine available. Anyways, for viral infections, usually supporting treatment, rest, and plenty of fluid is what we usually prescribe. We usually tell the patients. Antivirals have not been having that much of a success like antibiotics for bacterial infections. So that's another thing. We don't have. We are trying different antivirals like remdesivir and favipiravir, but we still don't know whether they have, how much efficient are they against these viruses. And we all know, we all are waiting, anxiously for vaccine to come. And we hear on social media, on news channels, we read in newspaper that Russia has made vaccine, and China, and now we are also in the race to have our indigenous vaccine. But till it comes in practice and we all get it, we are not so sure when it will come, how long the effect will last for. So everything is still, uncertain with with this virus, and how long it will offer protection, whether we have to take booster doses or not. All these things, the time will only tell us, but realistically we are not going to get this vaccine probably at least for next 6 months. So we need to protect ourselves from this virus, at least till we get the vaccine. So this is new SMS. So now SMS stands for sanitization, mask, and social distances. That's what we doctors now tell our patients. This is your new SMS. This is now you remember this SMS, and this is our protection till we get the vaccine. I'll briefly talk about importance of all these three things So first is sanitization your hand, extremely important. Everybody from all doctors to news channels, everybody, social media, everybody emphasize on importance of hand washing, either with soap and water or with alcohol based sanitizer. So this virus has got lipid layer. Outer side of this virus is lipid. So anybody which destroys the lipid will be helpful against of killing this virus. So alkali or soap or alcohol can kill this virus, but you have to remember that to washing hand is not like quickly just put the soap in and just rub it for 2-3 seconds and wash your hands with water. It doesn't work like that. So you have to wash your hands from front, from back, in between the fingers, even thumbs, you know even like if your arms are exposed, even you should wash your arms also, hands and arms, and at least for 20 to 30 seconds. That's effective hand washing. And you should wash your hands whenever you touch some outside surface, when you come out come home after touching somewhere outside, you when you buy grocery, when you wash it off, all those, like every time you touch a surface, ideally you should wash your hands. So make it a habit of washing this hands. Hand wash is better. Sanitization is to be done when you are outside and when you don't have soaps and water. So keep a small sanitizer bottle in your purse or in your pocket. In hospitals and clinics, they all have sanitizer. Even like offices, wherever you go now, you'll find a sanitizer bottle outside. But at home, preferably wash your hands with soap and water. Also for children, it is safe. Mask. If I want to talk about mask, I can talk for at least half an hour. So there's so much of a discussion about mask, which mask to wear, how whether it's N95 mask or the cloth mask or a surgical mask. So remember one simple thing: if you are a healthcare professional, if you are a high risk, if you are in touch with high risk contacts, or if you have a patient at home, COVID-19 positive patient or a suspect at home, it is better to use N95. But for other people who are going to office or who are going to grocery and all, a simple cloth mask or 3-ply surgical mask is also enough. You can put a face shield over it, so that is a double protection. N95 mask is effective when like 95% of the virus particles are filtered. But some people get suffocation with this mask, and it's not very easy to wear it for a long period of time. But simple washable cloth mask and discard disposable surgical masks, you can use it. And I see people using mask in a funny way. I mean, sometimes the mask is down here, sometimes the nose is exposed. This is not the right way to wear the mask. And it is also very important not to touch the inside of the mask with your unwashed hands, because you can pass the virus through your hands, unwashed or unsanitized hand, over to your mask, and you yourself can get the infection. Mask is a social, so we should remember that it is our social vaccine. I mean, now we have those vaccines till we get the real vaccine. So very important. So if everybody wears a mask, the chances of transmitting the virus is very low. Social distancing, now we come to social distancing. So it is better to keep distance between. It's very difficult, I know, in our country, and the amount of people that we have around, especially in markets and all, but still try and maintain social distancing at least 2 to 3 feet, at least minimum. I'm talking about, ideally it's 6 feet. If 2 people are wearing the mask, and if this person is COVID positive unknowingly, the chances of transmission of virus to the other person is less than 2%. But if this person is wearing mask and the other person is not wearing mask, the chances of transmission of infections around 30 to 40%. And if both are not wearing mask, the chances are around 80 to 90%. So if you want to minimize the risk of transmission, People should wear mask. We see a lot of people on the street, they are not wearing mask, they're taking it very lightly. So unless it's, so fortunately most of the times people get away with mild symptoms, but if you have some severe infection, if the manifestation of this virus is severe in you, then that's when it really starts. Then you know that this is, you can't really take this virus lightly. So maintain social distancing, mask, and sanitization. These are the three important things till we get the vaccine. So I'll talk about general symptoms of COVID-19. So much has been said about COVID-19 symptoms on WhatsApp groups and social media and internet. But you have to understand, this virus is so tricky because you will not even realize that you have this virus, because the symptoms are very common, like any flu. So the commonest symptom that we see is fever. Around 89 to 90% of the people will have fever, and the fever can be mild, around 99.5 to 100, to even high grade temperature till 102, 103 degrees. But fever is the hallmark of, very few people don't have fever. Dry cough, usually the cough is dry, it's not a wet cough that we see in other bacterial infection. It's a dry irritating cough that is present in around 20 to 30% of the people. Tiredness, again out of proportion. Some, you feel tired with any viral infection, but this COVID-19 viral infections give tremendous tiredness. Sometimes even after getting better from this infection, people feel fatigued for, like, at least for few weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. That's called as post-COVID syndrome. That's one of the main symptom, tiredness. Okay, so these are the three most commonly encountered symptoms, but you may still have other symptoms like muscle aches and pains, calf muscle pain, sore throat, diarrhea, then conjunctivitis. So conjunctivitis, it's not very commonly seen in our country, but in China, an ophthalmologist actually found out that this is some different kind of virus that they are facing, because he was getting a lot of patients with conjunctivitis from the same province. So that's how he actually realized there's something, some strange virus, some strange infection is going on. And unfortunately, that doctor died of COVID after a few months. Another common symptom is headache. Some people have vague headaches, frontal headaches, sometimes, even at the back of the head and neck. Loss of taste and smell. I'll talk about this when I talk about nose and the nasal manifestations of COVID. That's another common symptoms, loss of taste and smell. Skin rash or discoloration of fingers and toes. So viral infections are known to cause skin rashes. Many of them cause skin rash. These are the common. Around 85 to 90% of the people will have only these kind of symptoms. Only 5 to 7% will land up in serious symptoms like difficulty breathing and shortness of breath, chest pain or pressure, loss of speech or movement, that is neurological involvement. So we have to catch the patients when they are at this stage, like mild stage. The serious symptoms, that means that the disease is quite advanced. So when you have difficulty in breathing, that means your lungs are badly involved. This virus can cause something called as happy hypoxia. That means your oxygen saturation is down, but you still don't feel breathless. So that's why people go to emergency department when they have started having difficulty in breathing, and when the doctors check the oxygen level in blood, it is around 80%, 75%, and that's quite a bad thing. So that's why now we advise people the people who have oximeter, that fingertip oximeter at home, to check their oxygen saturation. If they have any symptoms, above symptoms, you don't have to check it every time if you don't have any symptoms of COVID. But if you're suspecting a COVID a patient in your house, person in your house, then you should check his or her saturation. Ask them to walk for 6 minutes at a leisurely pace and then check the saturation again. So normal oxygen saturation is around 96 to 100%. If that saturation drops below 93%, 94 to 93%, then you have to suspect that yes, this person is now going to probably go to that level where he can land up in complications. So that's very important. It's not mandatory, but if you have a pulse oximeter at home, check your oxygen saturation, especially in elderly people. If you have senior citizens at home, keep checking their oxygen saturation. Okay, so after last 3 to 4 months, I get a common question: Doctor, do I have COVID-19? So, being an ENT surgeon, I see there's surge of patients. Most likely, I would say 70 to 80%. Most of them are psychologically think that they have COVID-19 infection. They read something in newspapers and on internet, and then start correlating their symptoms with that of that article, and they think that they have COVID-19. Because this virus is can cause symptoms like any other viral infections. See, it has got affection for respiratory system, but it also can affect your stomach, your skin, your eyes, your brain, also your heart. In the rare case scenario, most likely it will affect your respiratory, majority of the people. So because this now there's a flu season, a lot of people, when the monsoon starts or the season changes, they have common cold. So the symptoms are so overlapped that some people who have cold or runny nose, they will also start rushing to the doctor's clinic thinking that they have COVID-19 or whether they should get the test done. So what are the this is just an understanding. You can, I mean, this is general guideline that you may have this, you may have this, you may have this. This is not a foolproof. But if you have COVID-19 infection, usually the onset is sudden. So morning you're absolutely fine, by evening you have temperature. There is no prodromal syndrome. Many a times first you start feeling there's some headache and some runny nose or watery nose, and then the fever starts. Here nothing of that sorts happen. Many of the times you just suddenly have fever out of nowhere. Okay, and the symptoms of COVID common, as I explained in last slide: fever, dry cough, muscle pain, fatigue. Less common are headache, coughing of blood or hemoptysis, very very rarely seen in COVID, and diarrhea. Seasonal flu onset is abrupt, though not sudden, but it is also an abrupt onset. Here there is a fatigue, dry cough. Again, like the symptoms are of that of similar to COVID-19: headache, sore throat, runny or stuffy nose. Less common is diarrhea, vomiting. And a common cold is usually the onset is gradual. You usually get stuffy nose or runny nose. You also may get sneezing and sore throat. And usually common cold doesn't, usually you don't get high grade fevers. Usually the fever is low grade. You can have muscle or body ache or headache and fatigue. So if you see the charts, you'll say, what doctor, all the symptoms are same. So that's the worry. That's why it is a trickster. You don't know what you're exactly dealing with. So usually the symptoms of like the nasal symptoms are less common in COVID. At least our experience in last 5.5 months or 6 months, say, tells us that it's not, the nasal symptoms are not very common. The throat symptoms or cough or fever is usually the common symptoms in COVID. So another, a condition which can mimic COVID-19 is allergic rhinitis. A lot of people are sufferers of allergic rhinitis. And because of lockdown, a lot of people are at home. And especially during this season, dust mite allergy is very, very common. And even a fungal allergy is common because there is an increase in humidity. There is lack of, proper ventilation and sunlight in the house. And a lot of people are at home right now. So this another condition which can mimic COVID-19 like symptoms, but usually you have sneezing, runny or stuffy nose, watery or itchy eyes, sometimes red eyes, then itchiness in the throat, ear congestion, post-nasal discharge. Usually you have a history of these symptoms in the past. Some people may develop it as a new symptoms, but most likely you remember, okay, I've had it last season also, the seasonal allergic rhinitis. Or some people have this perennial throughout the year, they suffer from allergy. But also sometimes, you can get headache and coughing with allergy. So that's where you may feel that whether it's COVID or it's my usual allergy. But usually in allergic rhinitis you don't get fever. It's very unusual to have fever in allergic rhinitis. So now we're coming to our three main important organs that we are going to talk about today. First, I'll talk about our nose and how to take care of your nose during this pandemic. So our nose is a gateway of our body. Whatever is there in surroundings, whatever viruses, bacteria, pollens, dust, we all inhale through our nose. That's why it's just not the passage. It has got many functions. So it's not just the air passage. And it's so complicated inside. From outside, it's a tiny thing, but inside it's got tremendously complex structure, and it has got many functions. So first, we'll talk about what our nose is supposed to do. The first important function of nose is olfaction, smell. So the roof of the nose, there are small nerve endings which carry sense of smell to our brain. Okay, so this virus, COVID-19, affects this lining of these cells. That's why people who have COVID-19, many of them, they complain about loss of sense of smell and taste. So usually it is a severe loss of smell. You can lose your smell in other viral infections also, but the loss of smell sensation in COVID is quite profound. Okay, so usually people who have these symptoms, loss of smell and loss of taste, they get away with mild symptoms. They usually don't progress to the severe form. The virus usually just gets localized to that area, but usually doesn't go down to your lower respiratory tract. So anosmia is very important. And because of there's loss of taste, smell sensation, the taste sensation is also gets affected. And usually the bitterness is still there. Bitter and sour taste is preserved, but the sweet taste is not there. So you may, whatever you eat, you may find it's all bitter. Okay, so that's another symptom you should watch out for. So I have a patient that a daughter and mother who lost their sense of smell, and it took 2 months for it to come back. So imagine how they were eating, and there was there was no taste and there was no smell. But usually it comes back slowly, gradually. So it's the nerve affection of the virus. So nose also has got a protective mechanism. It protects the lower airway by mucociliary clearance. We have hair inside the nose, and we have a mucus which is produced by the nasal epithelium or the nasal lining, which filter the bacteria and viruses and prevent them from going inside our body. So that's very important defense mechanism our nose has. Smell, I've explained. Breathing, we breathe through our nose. That's another main function. Vocal resonance. So whatever we talk, the resonance to our voice is given by the nose and the structures inside the nose, which are called as turbinates. So these turbinates are like elevations on either side of the nose, through the air passes through that and gives a proper resonance to our voice. So whenever we have cold or when our nose is blocked, we lose our vocal resonance, and then our voice becomes heavy. Nose also does air conditioning of the air, so the air becomes warm, humid when it reaches to the lower respiratory tract. So this is such an important organ of our body, and this is where the virus is going to enter in your body first. So how should we take care of the nose? So first and foremost is, do not touch your face without washing hands. Make it a habit. People have habit of touching their face, touching their nose, eyes. You know, please, unless you wash your hands or you sanitize your hands, do not touch your face. Make that as a habit, okay? Because you that's first thing, that the virus easily can enter through nose. Then wear the mask properly. I told you in the second slide that how people wear mask. You should learn the proper way how the nose should be covered, not the mask should not be lowered down. It doesn't serve any purpose. So wear the mask properly over your nose. So we all know that now Namaste has become world famous. Even in the US and UK, the politicians are following our traditions. So greet with Namaste if you meet your friend or relatives. Cover your nose and mouth with tissue paper and handkerchiefs while coughing or sneezing. Are all simple things which will make a huge difference in stopping spread of this virus. So every time if you have sensation of cough, or if you want to sneeze, either put your hand, in fact, if you should not put your hand over your nose, but this is how it's better way of sneezing. Just fold your elbow and sneeze. So this is how you should protect. These are all simple measures. You probably everybody knows about this, but it's about implementation and constant, reminder that you should be following these things. So now a lot of people take steam inhalation. Whether it helps or not, it's really debatable. I had actually, come across a paper from England that there increase in burns in especially in children because of steam inhalation. So steam inhalation, there is no scientific evidence that it kills the virus. And how many times are you going to take steam? So the effect of steam, if you are exposed, maybe if the virus is heat labile, if it is vulnerable to heat, for that time, so if you inhale the virus and then you take the steam some 1 hour later, it's not going to serve any purpose. And in fact, taking steam, excessive steam, it's not good for your nasal mucosa. A lot of people now I see in OPD complaining of dryness of the nose, sometimes even scalding. People have reported cases or excess because of excessive drinking of hot water and taking excessive steam. So taking it once a day, I would say it's all right, but 3 4 it's not going to stop the virus in entering in your body, no way. So as long as you do it in moderation, it's okay, but don't overdo it. Jalaneti, a lot of people follow this Ayurvedic tradition of washing the nose with Jalaneti, with neti pots. Again, it's a good way to keep your nose, clean and moist and all. But again, it will not prevent the spread of the virus. It will not kill the virus inside the nose. If you are having the habit of doing Jalaneti, you can continue doing it, but wash the nozzle of the pot properly. Disinfection is important, otherwise you'll be touching your nose, you're leaving it somewhere, and so washing it with soap and water is very important. Jalanete is good to like it as a general nasal hygiene, but it does not prevent the virus entry in your body. So that's all about nose. Another important organ, throat. Again, so many people now, when they know that throat irritation or pain is symptom of COVID, one of the symptoms of COVID, doctor, I have throat pain. Do I have COVID? Should I get it tested? So another gateway of our body, like nose, oral cavity or mouth is also very, very important, because we ingest, sometimes we inhale also through mouth. Sometimes the nose is blocked and people breathe through mouth, or some people are mouth breather. So directly the viruses, bacteria, pollens, dust can enter in your throat. So it is one of the throat irritation, pain is one of the symptoms of any viral or bacterial infection, acidity or allergy. Again, I see so many people with acid reflux, especially middle-aged females coming to me, complaining of that something is stuck in the throat. There is a throat irritation, and there is no other symptom. It's just that. So usually it is the muscle here. This is called as cricopharyngeus muscle. It gets contracted due to repeated acid reflux, and then you get that sensation of something is stuck in the throat. But it's not very so if you have associated some other symptoms with it, then yes, there is a suspicion that okay, that person may have COVID. But more or less, these are all non-specific symptoms that patients come up with. So throat irritation, yes, sore throat irritation is, you should not ignore it. I'm not saying it's nothing, you should, don't bother about it. It's just all psychology. It's not like that. But, be vigilant, but don't stress yourself because you just like once have throat irritation, then next time you're fine, and then again it comes. So be watchful, but don't get stressed over it. Does drinking hot water help? Again, like your steam inhalation, drinking hot water really, scientifically, there is no evidence or there is no data that it prevents the virus entry or it kills the virus in your throat. Another thing is how many times you're going to drink this hot water. So again, excessive drinking of hot water is not good. I've seen people burning their inside of the mouth and throat because of drinking excess hot water. So drinking lukewarm water, is also all right. There's no role of hot water as such. So do gargles have a role in prevention? There are some papers about povidone iodine gargles, popularly known as betadine gargles or soludine plus or Betacine gargles. Povidone iodine is virucidal. It kills the virus in certain proportions, dilute in water. But again, the effect only lasts for around 30 minutes or so. So there is no guarantee that since we don't know when the virus is going to catch us, doing excessive gargling is also not good. So there, in Malaysia, they did a study in doctors and in nurses and in ward boys that during their shifts, every 2 to 3 hours they were asked to do gargles with this povidone iodine. And so there is the initial reports that the COVID infection is found less in those people, but again we need some more papers and some more studies before we are 100% sure. So again, doing gargles, even like saltwater gargles and turmeric, haldi gargles is another thing. You can do it, but don't overdo it, and there is no guarantee that even after doing that you will not get the virus. So now, fortunately, there is no vaccine virus, but it's usually due to from nose, the ear gets the infection gets transferred to the middle ear. So as such, it's very, very rare to find an isolated ear infection and COVID-19 infection. So I would just be talking about how to take care of ears generally, because not a lot of people are working from home right now, and or constantly on the phone or using headphones all the time. So that's how, I'll talk to you about how to take care of your ears. So ears are generally very maintenance free organ. I mean, you have wax production, that's the only thing. But wax is also protective thing. So if you don't have wax, if you have a very less wax production, you can get ear dryness and itching sensation. So wax is there for a reason. And people who have excess amount of wax production, they should be using those ear wax dissolving drops, and then getting it cleaned by a doctor. No, but most of the people, around 70% of the people, don't have to go to doctors to get their wax removed. So I'll talk about the use of headphones. Most of the people, IT professionals, teachers, a lot of employees of different organization, bank employees, a lot of people are also working from home. So use of headphones, excess use of any excess sound to your ears is not good long term. So our ear has got around 15 to 16 thousands of hearing cells. So once, and they are there, once you start losing them, they can never be back to normal. So if you lose some thousand, so you will lose them permanently. They are not going to grow back again. So we have to use our ears very, very carefully. So because of the excess use of all these earphones and excess noise exposure, we see hearing loss in children very early these days. So normally our hearing is around 0 to 20 decibel, but I see a lot of kids having around 30-35 decibels of hearing at the age of 20 years, 15 years. So somewhere our lifestyle, the way we use our ears is changing. That's why we see that hearing loss early. So don't be surprised that if we don't get any permanent cure for that, you'll see people who are 35 or 40 years of age using the hearing aid, because that's the only treatment available right now for sensory neural hearing loss or nerve deafness. So turn down the volume of your headphones. Okay. So if you're somebody outside is hearing that sound, that means the volume is really loud. So turn down the volume. You can set the volume limit in some, I think, headphones and some earphones. You can set the volume limit, or you can go to the settings of, I think it's available in iPhone, and you can set a volume limit so that you know that you're not going to overboard with the volume. So use noise cancelling headphones preferably. So what happens naturally is when you have excess surrounding noise, people are talking, if you're in a crowded place, you naturally increase the volume of the headphones. So but you get nowadays noise cancelling headphones where the outside noise gets cancelled, and the volume that you use normally, it's usually sufficient then. Headphones are better than earphones. Earphones which you put directly, what I am using right now. So these earphones can cause some irritation in the ear. Sometimes the wax gets pushed, and so even the sound quality is better with the headphones. So it's preferable to use the headphones than earphones. And it is important to take some listening breaks. Suppose if you are in a meeting, ideally in 1 hour you should take 10 minutes of listening break. If you're using headphones or earphones, like in half an hour you take 5 minutes if possible. Follow that thing to give rest to your ears also, because continuous sound is not good long term. So avoid use of earbuds to clean the ears. This is very important. A lot of people they're so fond of using earbuds. Everybody has got that Johnson bud in their house, and they just have a habit. They feel good. Most of the people, I ask them, why do you use earbuds? I feel good, doctor. And then you don't have wax. So I clean it every day. You don't need to clean your ears from inside every day. No way. So the wax, wax is needed for your ears. Wax keeps your ear moist. Okay, it traps the dust particles also. So don't go overboard with ear cleaning. You just put a small cloth wrapped around your little finger after you take shower. Just clean it from outside. Inside, you should not be really putting earbuds. Here in the picture, you can see the earbud is actually pushing the wax inside. So diameter of the earbud and diameter of the canal, it's outside the ear canal is broad, but inside it's quite narrow. So you may be able to clean the wax from outside, but if the wax is little deeper, you are in fact pushing the wax inside. You may injure the eardrum. That's very dangerous. I have seen so many times injury with earbuds. Sometimes people are cleaning their ears. Some child comes in and hits the elbow, and then accidentally the earbud goes in. So the distance from this entrance of the canal to the eardrum is around 1.8 centimeter. So remember, don't go too deep in. If at all, I would recommend not to use the earbuds, but if at all you are using it, please don't go deep inside. You may injure the eardrum, and there are hearing bones behind the eardrum. You may injure that also, and that can be dangerous. Again, a lot of people have habit of putting ear drops. Okay, so they just go to chemist, I have some ear pain, and they give some drops. So sometimes I see severe fungal infection, people are putting wax dissolving drop. They have wax and they're putting antibiotic drops. So how you, so ears are so tiny, and unless you look inside, doctor looks inside what it is there, you're not going to understand what you exactly need. In fact, some drops can harm your wrongly prescribed drops can harm your eardrum. Okay, so be careful, please. Please do not put, if you have ear pain, it's safer to take any some painkiller in emergency situation rather than putting some ear drops. Okay, so this is all about ears, but ears, again, as I said, it's nothing to do with your COVID. COVID usually doesn't affect the ears. So since many of us have a lot of, like, small children at home, I would briefly talk about care of children during COVID-19. These are poor things which are really got affected with this sudden change in lifestyle. They are at home, they need outdoor activities, and suddenly they are homebound. And people are asking to wash hands and wear masks, all these things. This the tiny people have never know this before, has they don't have the capacity to understand sometimes also. But I see lot of I get a lot of small kids coming to my clinic, and I see a lot of difference. And they insist, if somebody they see not wearing the mask, put the mask in. So they have also now started understanding that they have to live with it, or they know this is some dangerous virus, and it is just not going to go just by saying go corona go. Okay, so uh, but for children, fortunately, uh, if they get infections, usually it is mild. Children under 10 years are protected by a gland called as thymus, which is a a protection mechanism which gives to their body. Thymus disappears later on. So even if they have my infection, it is usually a mild infection, usually just mild cough and cold or fever. But the thing is, even if they're asymptomatic, they can infect others. So especially if you have grandparents at house, they may go and hug the grandparents or hug the parents. That's where it is tricky. But you can't really help it. You can't really keep them social, keep social distancing with children all the time. I know it is difficult. So again, just emphasize importance of hand washing in them. Make hand washing as a family activity. Wash your hands with them also, so that they understand how to wash their hands properly. Children above 2 years should wear mask in public places. So under 2 years, it's again tricky, and it's not really recommended unless you're taking them out. So maybe you can cover them with some cloth or over their mouth, but very loosely. Otherwise, there's a chance of getting suffocation. So if they are going out, children above 2 years should wear mask. Again, they are, because they are not going outside, engage them with some physical activity at home, and have some like yoga sessions or some dance sessions online with their friends, that can make them physically and mentally active and happy. Their routine immunization, please don't miss it. Talk to your pediatrician, and if they're due for immunization, don't postpone it unless they have some other reasons not to get the vaccine. So when children are at home, when clean and disinfect high-touch surface daily, because children, no matter what, how many times you tell, they're going to put their hands without washing, hands in their mouth without washing it. So it's better to, wherever there is high chance of touching that surface, clean and disinfect that surface daily. Again, promote healthy eating habits that will boost up their immunity, that keeps them healthy. Ensure that healthy eating habits. Talk to your doctor if your child has coronavirus like symptoms, even if they have cold or cough or fever. mild, even mild stuffy nose, talk to your pediatrician and they can guide you properly. So, like children, another tricky age group is senior citizens, people above 60 years. So, elderly with pre-existing health conditions are at a greater risk. This virus all over the world data shows that elderly are at higher risk of getting the virus, and the complications are more in elderly people, especially if they have diseases like diabetes or blood pressure or any other chronic disease or heart problem, if they have had a history of chronic illnesses. So they are at higher risk. People who are on chemotherapy, people who are on dialysis. So you have to take extra care of these people. Also pregnant females, very important to take extra care of these people, especially for senior citizens. um, you have to, even if they have blood pressure and if they have diabetes, if it is well controlled, again the chances of complications are less in these well controlled conditions, people who have well controlled conditions. But if you have uncontrolled diabetes, uncontrolled hypertension, you don't take medicines regularly, then you are at a higher risk. So make sure that your parents or your grandparents take their tablets according to doctor's prescription regularly. Keep checking their blood pressures and sugars regularly. Okay, so that's very important. Build their physical immunity and mental health. So again, they like to go out. They like to have chats with their friend, going to garden, meeting their senior citizen group. That's all has been now come to an halt because of COVID. So ensure that they talk to their friends, and they have that WhatsApp video call with their friends. They do some social engagement and activity with their friends. So with them, maintain social distancing at home as far as possible. If you're going out, if somebody in your family is working and has to go to office, and if they have elderly parents at home, try and make social distancing. Some people use mask at home, cloth mask also, if they have parents at home. I would also recommend, if you have a parents who have, if either maintain a good social distancing around 6 feet, or use masks, at least simple cloth masks they should be using, and you should be using as well when interacting, when talking and all. So it is to protect them with this virus. Keep them updated with latest authentic information about COVID-19. If they are living somewhere out, even if they don't stay with you, they get scared, they get really worried about what's happening around them. So you tell them what should be done if they have symptoms, or what way, when they should go to doctor, and all, like, about general knowledge about COVID. Everybody is a covidologist these days. Most of the people know what COVID is. And don't ignore the symptoms like fatigue or mild fever or cough in them, because sometimes old people don't complain too much. They said, "Ha, chalo, ho jayega. Why to bother others?" That's what usually their mentality is. But if you ignore it, and suddenly you'll find, I've seen people suddenly become hypoxic, and then when they ask history, no, 10 days ago I had some mild temperature, I was feeling very tired at that time, but I didn't tell, and suddenly you develop pneumonia. So because you ignore the initial symptoms, so don't do that. So if for especially with elderly, you should talk to your doctor immediately, even if they have very mild symptoms also. And these are some simple things. Also, some people have, they when to get the test done. So that is also a common question which people ask. I think, I mean, I will talk that, but this is my end of my presentation. We take the questions. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello,
Yeah.
doctor.
Yes.
Okay, will it go through ice, the virus?
A virus can enter through eyes. Yes, there are some reports. It's especially in China. That's why I told an ophthalmologist actually. That he had a lot of COVID patients with conjunctivitis from same province, same area. That's how he realized there's some viral infection going on. But that's COVID affects eyes, and COVID you can the virus can pass through the eyes also. If you rub your infected fingers and you don't wash it, and if you rub the finger over your eyes, you can get the virus through eyes also.
But not through ears, right? You're sure?
No, not through the ears, no. Do you have any questions?
Doctor,
Hey.
this is Gargi. Yeah. So just a piece of news that came yesterday was that in China, there was an apartment building where one of the apartments was empty for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
There were people who got infected in the below apartments. And it was from such a long time that when people went there to test, they found the traces of the virus in that empty apartment. And
Okay.
the conclusion that they arrived on was that the virus has passed through the pipes and reached. Is this something which can be possible? Because in that case, there's nobody safe anywhere in Mumbai.
Yeah. So first of all, I think anything coming from China, I will be very skeptical. I don't know whether they really give authentic information or not. So whether to believe China or not, that's the main question. And the spread of virus, see, it is still we don't know this virus completely. So we still not sure. There are still speculation how long it lasts on the surface. A lot of on the skin, whether it passes through droplets, whether fomites, different things keep coming every single day. WHO, directives from WHO, ICMR also keeps on changing. So I am not sure I haven't read the report, but I don't know. I mean, I have to read the report to know whether it has what you mean to say. It passes through the water. Is that what you wanted to?
Yes. That is what the conclusion from that incident has happened in China.
Okay, I have to see, because this is the
Something like this.
first report.
And they found that this also was the case in case of SARS, which led to some 60-70 people, dying in China. And they were like, this virus has the same kind of properties that it travels through water in those ways. But that's
So the virus is.
we can't trust anything coming from China.
We don't know. So let some reports also come from others. See, we have to be vigilant in all possible ways. That's for sure. But if it spreads through water, then we as people don't have any control over it. Maybe except for boiling your water, drinking water. That's all. I mean, what can you do if it passes through just normal pipelines? Which I don't know. With this is one report, we have to people need to really get some authentic information from other sources also. Then only we can comment. But
Doctor,
it shades from your feces also. It even after you become COVID negative, if you have infection and you become COVID negative, it passes through your feces for at least 4 to 5 weeks.
Okay. One more thing, doctor. What about these, Ayurvedic homeopathic stuff that has been distributed in the name of, that your immunity will get stronger, and a lot of medicines, and we actually got something distributed through our, MLAs in different societies in our areas as well. Our society also procured some and gave it to all the residents of the buildings. And are these things useful, or it might have some harmful effects?
See, I am not an Ayurvedic or homeopathic specialist, so I don't know what exactly these things are. See, in my opinion, as long as they're harmless, even if not effective, if they're causing some other harm to your body, then you should not be taking it. So you should. I know that arsenic album and all, lot of people took it,
Yes.
but even like in allopathy before, previously so many people took hydroxychloroquine, and later on we found out that it's not really helping much. So I don't know really about Ayurvedic, and so as long as they are safe in general way, there is no harm in taking. But you don't want to have another side effects due to these medicines. So I am not a specialist in that field. So I haven't taken it though. So though we also got it through our society.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Any other thing?
Doctor, one question regarding general allergies.
Yeah.
Kids, they develop these seasonal allergies due to weather change.
Yes.
So at night they have a lot of stuffy nose, watery eyes, runny nose, and all that. And then the fear is that whether they have contracted any virus,
Yeah.
although they generally don't have temperature, but get rid of these discomforts at least, so that they can, at least they will not spread that virus.
Yeah. So there is so much of a anxiety about COVID. So see, all other diseases are still on. So allergies are on, dengue is on, malaria is on. But people, we are so much focused on this one thing that we actually sometimes refuse to believe there could be another thing also with allergy. So suppose if you you've had a history of allergy in the past, and if the symptoms are same, then you probably know that okay, this is my usual allergy. But if you have temperature with it or tiredness with it, it is then you have to be vigilant. So even if you have your normal allergic attack, sneezing, runny nose, you should isolate yourself. Even in the house you should wear mask, and it's better to protect other family members, just in case if you have COVID and you're thinking it's allergy. Sometimes it's difficult to differentiate between these symptoms, but in allergy usually it's sneezing, runny nose, itchiness. And COVID, it's usually those nasal symptoms are very less in COVID. It's dry cough and it's fever, tiredness, fatigue. So in allergy you don't get that thing. But again, if you have some upper respiratory symptoms, it's better that you be careful while in your house and protect your family and even outside.
Okay. How to cure this, these symptoms, nasal congestion for kids? Because usually,
See, it all depends what the child has really. It's you can't really give a blanket therapy. You can put saline drops in the children's nose. Sometimes,
Okay.
rarely, we also recommend that xylometazoline or Otrivin pediatric, those kind of drops. If, depending on it varies case to case basis. Sometimes for allergic rhinitis in children above 2 years, we also sometimes give steroid nasal spray. So it depends why the congestion is there. So that's why don't, especially with children, it's safe to use the saline drops. But other things, unless your doctor prescribes it, you should not be using those things.
correct. Yeah, I mean, with this situation, I was trying to avoid a doctor visit. I mean, because you don't know what, they can quickly contract, in the hospital environment.
Yeah, it is better. Then a lot of people are doing online consult also. So you can find out, you can do online consult, you can talk to the doctor. So it has got limitation. Of course, you cannot really directly see what's going on, physically examine the patient, but a trained, experienced specialist can sometimes understand from the symptoms also. And then if the child or the patient doesn't get better, then probably it's better to schedule the visit somewhere where you find the hygienic practices are well maintained and all. Okay. See, we have to live with this virus for a long period of time. So it's not like now you're not going to the doctor or hospital. It may just continue for another 6 months, 9 months, 1 year maybe. So we don't know. So how long can you not go to the doctor if the child or the patient is suffering? One, and if it's not getting better just with the online thing and all, then somewhere you have to take go to doctor for a visit.
Right. Thank you, doctor, for answering.
Okay. So I think there are no more questions. So should I sign off?
Thank you, doctor.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you, doctor. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.